Hi, my name is Shy or Shaye, and welcome back. Uh, um, the last video, I said I was going to do a video weekly, but I also cautioned it might be Wednesdays. It just depends on the week. So this has been a couple weeks. Before I dive into what I want to discuss, just sending everyone out there who actually watches these videos love, and hopefully you are keeping your head on straight in these times, in this climate. So, for me this week, what I wanted to touch on, like I said in the last video, I was reflecting on, and anyone who's new here on this channel, I started this channel as an outlet for myself to talk and to discuss topics that were on my mind and to see what would come out of me. And what it revealed to me last year was there were clearly a lot of things I needed to just say out loud. They weren't earth-shattering things, I don't believe, but they're just things I had bottled up that I think I needed to discuss in some form and format. And for some reason, this camera served that purpose. I don't know why it was this camera that brought it out of me. So I used last year, setting up this channel to do a lot of that, a lot of talking, a lot of reflecting, a lot of just looking back on life and life lessons and sharing what I had acquired along the way. And then I kind of pivoted into doing or attempting to do vlogs because I said a lot of my video consumption here are vlogs, which I also enjoy doing. But lately, if I'm being honest, because what that made me realize last year was it kind of kickstarted another phase of, I hate to use the social media term, but healing journey, was realizing I had unresolved personal things to work through. And I was working through that last year. And this year, I'm in a space where a lot of that bursting at the seams to say stuff is no longer there, where I'm more at peace with a lot of things. So as a result, I don't have a lot of ramblings in me, if I'm being honest, right? And I have been reflecting on what this phase of healing looks like, right? Where you are just, you've unpacked the things, you've aired out your laundry, you've come to terms with things. You're still working through some things, but you've come to terms with quite a bit. So there's a bit of peace that kind of settles on you. And as a result, there is not a need to explain yourself as much anymore. There is not a need to verbalize everything, right? And this being a channel that I started for talking, it kind of makes it a bit awkward because I'm like, yeah, what I'm gonna talk about. So I said, let me talk about what this looks like, this phase of not really feeling the need to talk a lot and what that looks like. Because some point last year, I did touch on a phase I had to go through for a few months that was stillness, which was me just sitting with my thoughts, sitting with my restlessness, forcing myself to be still and seeing what comes up for me and why I was constantly in this flight mode and need to run away when I felt certain discomfort. And this doesn't feel like stillness because frankly, if I wanted to travel, I could. I'm not restricting myself, right? This feels more like I said, it feels more like it's peace. It's a choice. I could travel, but I don't feel the need to. I could do all the activities, but I don't feel the need to. I There are other things that I'm just prioritizing which are more calm, slow paced, self reflective. Also, just trying to get clarity on what I want my life to look like in the next 5, 10 years and planting those seeds now to set that up for myself. Also, there's a bit of grieving, right? The version of life that I thought I would have, or the version of life that was sold to me that I bought into and didn't question. It's been a lot of this season of grieving that, but simultaneous to that, celebrating a new version that I have seen and I can create for myself and accepting that. So all of that happening and marinating, and of course I unpack this with the professional. This is not my therapy session. I have that, it had me thinking, when you're online and everyone's talking about healing journey, your self-improvement journey, it's often from that place of crisis when you started the journey where you're just bursting at the seam and you're trying to get the tools and you're trying to figure out and you're coming to terms with some difficult truths or some harsh truths. and you're creating boundaries, and you're doing all those difficult things, not to downplay it, right? But I don't think I hear enough about not where you're fully healed, because I don't know what that looks like. I ain't fully healed. I've been transparent about that. I ain't fully healed, right? But when you get past that initial crisis mode, and maybe there's a bit more stability, and you're still working through your stuff, but it's a bit more stable. Not to say you won't create old patterns, but you're able to see them quicker and cut it off at the head. What that feels like, what that looks like, it is a calmness. It is very quiet work. It's not as chaotic as the earlier stuff I described. It's not as noisy. It's not as rambunctious. It's just calm. I don't have better terms. And it is also humbling, right? Because you also realize the cliche saying of you don't need much in life. I think we often convince ourselves, if I get the big job, if I get the big house, if I move to the big city, if I get the list it, right? And then, right? But you get to this point, you realize you don't need much. You could literally be in the middle of nowhere and figure yourself out and have the calmness, the peace, the state of mind that you aspire for if you keep working on it. It really, there's an old saying that's like, wherever you are, there you are, or wherever you go, there you are, right? And it's that notion of, if your mindset's not right, if you haven't found peace within yourself, if you haven't come to terms with contentment, it doesn't matter what city you move to, what country you move to, what continent you move to, your mindset goes with you, right? And you will create the same life that you were existing in. So that's where I currently am with things. And because that's happening, also simultaneous to that, I had stated at the start of the year that one of my goals for 2026 was I'm going to make money. I did not, in my healing, unpacking crisis mode of last year, I did not work. I wasn't able to work. So I knew walking into this year that that was one of my goals, was to try to find opportunities to work. Thankfully, that has grown legs. But what that has also meant is that I don't have as much time to do this. I've had to prioritize the other things that move that forward. And I'm trying to do it on a independent consultant basis, doing consulting work in finance and accounting, which means that is the first time I have to what's the term I'm looking for? Hit the road, find my own opportunities, connect with people, which as a very true introvert, I present as an extrovert, but I'm an introvert, is a lot, pick up the phone, call people. But these are people I like, people I enjoy interacting with. But it has taken my time to do that, to reach out to people, to indicate my interest, to genuinely connect, to pour into people, and vice versa, they pour into me. It's taking my time away from this. So it's had me thinking, what do I want this place to be? And like I said in the last video, there's a level of unseriousness that has to exist here. If you're looking for a YouTuber who is scheduled, who plans everything out, who can stick to what she says, I'm working on that, because I don't like that. I like being someone who does what she says, This space hasn't quite reached there. I'm working on it. Just because, again, like I said, right now I'm juggling both where I am not needing to talk and explain as much, and working on creating opportunities for myself that quite literally feed me outside of this world that is YouTube. So those things are taking priority. But every so often, this space, I still would like to utilize it as an outlet, as a form for expressing myself and also sharing. And frankly, there have been some amazing comments from people in some videos, and I wanted to encourage that. If you, for example, where are you with your healing? Where are you with this notion of not needing to be as boisterous in your processing of things and working through your personal stuff? Is it something you relate to? Is it something I just made up? I don't know. Have you experienced this? Share some of that, because I love reading the comments. I love exchanging notes with people, especially people I don't know. I'm like, wow, I'm glad this touched you and resonated with you, and you're also sharing with me things I could reflect on. What does that look like for you? I am still doing creative endeavors, but like I said, those things are things I now do more so for me than to show anyone, and to keep my feet on the ground as I am introducing back into my life some of the things that, quite frankly, not managed properly in the past caused my burnout. But now that I have a better sense of what I need to balance out my life, I'm doing that as I'm actively introducing these things. And maybe I'll share more about that later. So that was this week's video. I attempted to read in February. Let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room because I talked about books. I attempted to read like 2 books. It wasn't a whole lot. They were audiobooks. But yeah, I don't think they were worth sharing. I'll put it that way. I don't think they were worth sharing. So I think for February, I am going to pass on the book review and just hope that in March, I'm able to read more substantially and things that I feel more excited about sharing on here. But those 2 books were just, I read them, but I wouldn't recommend nobody go read them. And I don't want to bash anyone's work here because I think writing is hard. So I'm not going to do that. I would just not mention what the books were. So that was February. But in March, my goal is to read. Travel, I had planned in February, didn't work out. I don't know when next I'll travel because I just, like I said, there's other things. I'm trying to build some other stuff outside of here. We'll see what March brings us and we'll take it from there. I hope, again, everyone out there, you are taking care of yourself. You're prioritizing yourself. You are paying close attention to yourself because that's essentially the only thing I've known that has worked for me to get me from month to month in this climate that we exist in, especially if you reside in the United States. It's just the reality of things. All right, that was this week's video, and we will see what the next one brings. All right, take care. Bye.